Welcome to FedScoop TV. I'm Whitney Wyckoff. Here with me now at the Fed Talks 2015 is Darin Bartik. Darin is Executive Director of Information Management at Dell. Thank you for joining us today.
Pleasure to be here, Whitney.
Now, one of the major themes at Dell's annual Dell World event last month revolved around being future ready. That sounds catchy, but what does that actually mean for the beleaguered CIOs who are dealing with relentless day-to-day challenges?
Yeah, absolutely. So future ready is a big concept, and it's actually something that's certainly being talked a lot about in the government these days. For us, future ready is actually a pretty simple concept. It's really about thinking about where we're trying to go in the future, and how do we make technology investments to support the strategy of the mission, the strategy of the agencies that are really thinking about that longer term initiative.
Right.
So it's not just about the buzzword that's happening right now, it's not just about how do we take care of the acute problems in IT that are in front of us, but really how are we supporting the mission moving forward in terms of where are we trying to get to 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and hopefully make the technology investments that support that today, but also have them be scalable, have them be easy to use, have them be ready for the skills and the talents of people that are new to IT, so that they don't have to be 20 years in the business in order to know how to do things. So it's really about being ready for the future in terms of the teams, the technology, and of course the mission that we're trying to accomplish.
Right. Now, Dell has established itself as an end-to-end enterprise technology provider, but the company also does a lot with data analytics and business intelligence.
Yes.
What are a couple examples of work you're doing with federal agencies in those areas?
Yeah, good question. I actually talked about a couple on stage today, in fact. When we think about, first of all, Dell being an end-to-end provider, it's been a transformation that we've been on for probably 5, 6, almost 8 years now, I think, right? And it's been a big one. It's been cultural changes, but it's been a lot of technology changes. And we've brought a lot of interesting technology into the business. One of them most recently was a company called StatSoft. Relatively small company, but they've been in the analytics, the advanced analytics, text mining, predictive analytics space for almost 30 years. Started and run by people way smarter than me. So a couple of the examples that we've done, and again, when we think about end-to-end, it's more than just the software that does the analytics. It's more than just the models that we write and the very, very smart people that run statistical analysis and modeling. It's about getting the data to that process. It's about running the platforms, the database platforms, the data warehousing, to make sure we're taking care of that data before it gets integrated and analyzed. It's the full spectrum, right? So a couple examples. One, I would say the Red Cross is an exciting one that we've worked with. So it was one of the things I talked a little bit about on stage today. The Red Cross had the problem of how do we help the most people the fastest in terms of a disaster, right? And they know that a lot of the citizens in a city or someplace like New Orleans, etc., they use social media to talk. They use Facebook, they use Twitter, they use texting, etc. And how can we get all that data and figure out where people are and understand where people are, and not only that, but where people will be. So that in the event of a disaster, we know where the population is, so that we can send rescue teams there to those places faster, right? So that we know where the activity is happening, even though we may not have people on the ground yet. Another one is a hospital that we've worked with, that they're working on actually doing real-time analytics of information happening in the surgical theater, right as the surgery is happening, and analyzing the data that's coming from the patient, from the machines, etc., and really understand what's going to happen next during the surgical procedure. And then also try to prevent sepsis. Sepsis is one of the worst things that can happen after a surgery, right? Just infection in the location of the surgery, and really trying to analyze what will help prevent that situation and what will prevent sepsis in patients moving forward. So it's really fascinating when we talk about commercial use cases and market basket analysis and things like that. But when you talk about analyzing things that change people's lives, that's when it gets really exciting to talk about what does it mean to be end-to-end. So that's what we focus on a lot.
Interesting. Technology is becoming even more intertwined with how enterprises deliver on their mission or business strategy. What's your advice on what agencies can learn from commercial companies and vice versa to make technology not just a tool, but an engine for improving performance?
Yeah, it's a good question, Whitney. I think that first of all, it's absolutely true that technology isn't just a department in the organization. Technology is oftentimes the business in the commercial world, and oftentimes technology is really what makes up the mission in the government and even in the cities and state governments. It's really about just making it part of the conversation. Oftentimes the executive table, if you will, or the people that lead the agencies, IT wasn't at that table for a long time.
Right.
They're now at that table, right? And they're having conversations where in some cases IT is actually leading the strategy. One of the things I really try to encourage customers to think about is what question are you trying to answer? What problem are you trying to solve? And how is IT going to help do that, right? And oftentimes what I'm seeing in commercial groups is IT's coming up with that question because they're thinking about things that are possible that really the rest of the organization they don't understand it's even possible, right? They didn't know they could either get this amount of data. They didn't know they could understand a citizen or a customer like we can now, right? Based on the data that we can have about an individual or a data that we have about a particular situation, organization, etc. So how do we bring that all together and really help IT continue to have that conversation? I think some of the brightest people in the world are running the organizations and running the agencies, but I think more and more the people that I see coming into the strategic roles are actually coming from the technology side of things. So it's really fostering that, and it's really sponsoring it from the executive top down, not just the IT leaders trying to press to get at that table and stay at that table. It needs to be led from the top. So.
Interesting. Now, there's a sense that the nation's supply of talent, with a combination of technology, cybersecurity, and business skills, is just not keeping up with demand.
Yeah.
How do you view that situation at Dell, and what's working to close the gaps that agencies can learn from?
Yeah, well, that's a fascinating one. There's a couple things probably that come to mind right off the bat. First of all, I mean, I've got a 6-year-old and 8-year-old daughters, and their use of technology has been part of their life since the very beginning.
Right.
So just their ability to understand how technology impacts them and how it can impact their world and how they use it at school. So that's actually one of the things that Dell does a lot is we're very involved in the education community, not just with elementary schools, but high schools, universities, and really helping create that environment where technology is just infused into all of our thinking from the very beginning. But beyond that, I think that we think about the skills, the combination of technical and business skills. It's a difficult one, right? It's not present too often. We have too many. Actually, going back to your other question, if the technical leaders and the technical doers, as we sometimes call them, if they can have more of a business sense about them, they will be invited to that strategic table more often. So I encourage the cross-pollination of ideas, right? But I think if you look for the individual that has both those skill sets too soon or too often, you're eliminating the chance for people to team together, right?
I see.
Bring your best technology minds together, bring your best business minds together, and let them team, let them collaborate. Bring people from across agencies or across departments and let them work together. You don't have to find those, as I call them, the special unicorns that sometimes are the data scientists, right? The data scientist that has the technical skills, the statistical skills, and then also the business and strategic skills. Those people are rare. Right? So let's help team people together, but then also start from the beginning like my girls are doing and just infuse technology into the way they do everything in life from the beginning. So I think that'll change over time. It'll change.
All right, well, you've given us some really interesting things to think about.
Good.
Thanks so much for taking the time to join us.
Great, thanks Whitney.
Thank you. For more information about Fed Talks, visit our website at fedscoop.com. For FedScoop TV, I'm Whitney Wyckoff. Thanks for watching.